Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another video. We are here joined by Gort and we're going to talk about Minnesota United FC and the MLS today. If you've been around the channel for a while, you will know that often every now and then me and Gort sit down and have a chat about Minnesota United. Gort is obviously an Evertonian all the way from Minnesota, but of course he supports his local team Minnesota United as well. And as me and Gort have got speaking over the last couple of years or so since doing the Mighty Blues, we've obviously gotten closer to talking about Minnesota and the MLS and what's going on over there, and we speak practically every day about the latest updates on Minnesota and stuff like that. So every now and then we decide to sit down, have a little chat about it, see if people enjoy it and people get involved. We've decided to do it as a live stream today. I think this is the first time we're actually doing it as a live stream, which is interesting. So if you want to get involved in the live comments, then please do so. We're going to talk about obviously the season so far, 2 games into the season. If you don't know the connection between Minnesota and Everton, some of you might be sitting there thinking, is this just a random MLS video? Is there actually any connection between Minnesota and Everton? Minnesota United FC's manager, as shown in this gnome form, I think it's a gnome, is Adrian Heath. Inchi, of course, Everton legend, absolutely fantastic player in the 80s. He manages Minnesota United, so if you're wanting to sort of get into the MLS and find a team and find who to support, then no better reason to support Minnesota, really, than the fact that the manager is an Everton legend. So we're going to sit down, we're going to have a little chat about it. There is a new season underway in the MLS, couple of games into it. Big game coming up for Minnesota over the weekend as well. We're going to talk about some of the signings, some of the new players that have left, and just get into the thick of it, really, because we haven't had the conversation about Minnesota and the MLS for the last couple of months, really. So there's a lot to catch up on. But before we get into the nitty gritty of it, mate, before we get into the the juiciness of the MLS and Minnesota and what's been going on recently, how are you? How's life? How's things over in Minnesota? What's the weather like? Because it's been a bit weird in Liverpool recently. One day it's relatively warm and the next day it's absolutely freezing. So what's it like over there for you?
It's been nice, really. With our large amount of snow that we've gotten, it's kind of, started to, melt a lot, but there's still a lot of snow,
Yeah.
which I'm happy for. And it was kind of almost weird in a way, as far as the home opener, which fortunately I was planning on going to, and then when weather decides, and those you
Yeah.
don't know, like I kind of live kind of Minnesota, kind of almost kind of like eastern, like I'm like a 5-minute drive into Minnesota. I actually live in North Dakota, and so it's about maybe a f- about a 4-hour drive down, so like 8 hours round trip to go down to a game. So yeah, no, I'm good. Excited for I kind of like the MLS season, because it's like, oh, MLS season kind of starts as a lot of the big leagues in Europe kind of start to wind
Wind
down.
down, yeah.
So it gives me, like, I can kind of watch it all year round.
Yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely. And typically, obviously, being an Evertonian as well, typically at this point in the season with Everton, you're sort of just looking at it and we're going through the motions. We're playing the rest of the season. There's nothing really to play for. Now, obviously, this season, we know there's a lot more on the line than what there typically is in March. Usually, obviously, we've got a relegation battle and we've got a couple of really, really big games coming up. But Minnesota have started their season. They've got a couple of big games coming up as well. And there's been a lot of transfer business being done as well. You mentioned the snow there, by the way, which I think is really, really interesting, because the way you spoke about the snow was like, oh, yeah, we like the snow around here. It's, we're getting on and getting a lot of people in countries that are used to having snow just get on with it, don't they? It's just like, oh, yeah, I was watching a video today of Hathor Bjornsson, otherwise known as the Mountain, otherwise known as Thor, who's fighting Eddie Hall in a couple of weeks, and he done a vlog of his boxing camp, slightly off topic, but and he's driving into his gym, and he's driving a Range Rover, and there's just snow all over the Range Rover, and the floor is completely filled with about 6 inches, if not more, of snow. And yet when there's slight snowfall in England and in Liverpool, it's like, oh my god, stop the world, what's going to, you can't drive because there's a little bit of snow, whereas other places in the world just get on with it. But we are into a new season. We're a couple of games in. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the live stream as we progress. If anybody is watching, by the way, that's got any questions about Minnesota or the MLS or anything like that, then please do get in touch with in the comments, and we'll go through them. And I'm sure Gort will answer as many as he possibly can. But before we get into talking about the season, before we get into talking about the opening couple of games and the results, and a couple of again, not the worst results in the world, not the best results in the world. Let's talk about some of the transfer business. Minnesota have been active in the transfer market as typical. Ever since I've been sort of following the MLS in Minnesota, they're very active typically in the transfer market, and I think that's an MLS thing as well. You typically get a lot of MLS teams doing a lot of business, whereas over in Europe, certainly England, you can have transfer markets where teams don't buy a single player. What's the latest looking on the squad? Then obviously the last time we spoke was towards the end of last season. How drastically has the squad changed, and has there been any sort of players that you look at and go that he could make the difference between us being a mid-table average finish this season to really pushing at the top of the table?
I think definitely. We lost both Ozzy Alonso and Ethan Finley in free agency. I think we both wanted to bring them back,
Yeah.
but Ozzy Alonso ended up signing with Atlanta United, who came in the same season as Minnesota,
Okay.
and actually he was last weekend he was put out because he had saw with like the team cardiologist or something. So hopefully he's all better. And then I think Ethan Finley just wanted to try out the free agency. So he went down to Austin FC, co-owned by Matthew McConaughey. He got a brace this past weekend. We signed Dane St. Clair to a new 3-year deal, which kind of hoping that maybe that he would get the starting job. But
Yeah.
reportedly, we were shopping him to other clubs in the winter.
Okay.
Um, so we Michael Boxall, Sonny Dotson, Chase Gasper, and Dane St. Clair all got new contracts. We lost we declined the option on Jan Gregus, who was a DP, because I believe if we would have picked it up, he would have gotten quite a bit of a pay rise. He was selected by the San Jose Earthquakes in a re-entry draft. We ended up selecting from that uh, 22 or 27-year-old goalkeeper named Eric Dick. So I wonder how good we made all that, and then we signed a young South African forward, Bangakule Halongwe, or known as Bongi, to a U22 initiative, which is I think something new, and
Okay.
you know, it's been incredible to see. Definitely, we got that he's I think he's got a great future ahead. He played a little bit in the first game of the season, and then he played this second half of the game against Nashville, and he looked phenomenal, and we have the South African, so we have just the comments are just hilarious, and I got like, oh, we're happy to be in Minnesota too. I've been a fan of Minnesota even before it was established, or I started supporting this team in 1970, or I postponed my own funeral to focus on, and it's kind of that. And so I really like it. We selected in the super draft Hani Olawashani. We signed him to a one year deal with 3 club options. We also signed forward Abu Dan, former. He was with I believe he was the first super draft pick we ever did. We signed him to a 1+1 1-year deal plus a
Yeah.
one club. We lost him by in the expansion draft to Nashville. Um, we did each season club is MLS club is available to kind of buy out a player, so uh they're not contracted to the basically they're a free agent, and
Yeah.
so we did that unfortunately with Thomas Chacon, who we bought, and I guess it really didn't work out. We did, and then we signed Honduran midfielder Kerwin Arriaga. He played the first game. I thought he did incredible. He hit the crossbar.
Yeah.
Um, you know, he's tall in the air, and that's something that we kind of had to we're good and not good kind of, and
Yeah.
that's also something. And then we also announced the permanent transfer of Luis Amaria, who was a loan player for us during 2019
Yeah. 20.
2020, kind of the year when we when kind of COVID hit and
Yeah.
took a break. That he we were all really excited because he had promised 25 goals that season, and he ended up really not playing that much because he had like a kind of a long-term injury. So we signed him to a designated player contract through 2023 with 2-year club options. Then we did sign yesterday. We signed homegrown defender Devin Paddleford to a homegrown contract, which is a 3-year deal with 2 club options. Um, and then according to a report, one report, which is confirmed by another who's pretty reliable for Minnesota, that we would sign 19-year-old Argentinian midfielder Ignacio Gutierrez on loan
Okay.
from Vélez Sarsfield, the club that we bought Amaria from,
Yeah.
with a purchase option. And according to sources, he would play we this year MLS, like kind of announced like a new like MLS path to pro. So basically, like, kind of a reserve side. So they were
Mm.
saying if we do sign him, he'll probably. But um, according to one that I probably would definitely be a lot more reliable, is that the status of the deal is still premature.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much that. We got off season. Of course, we ended up drawing 1-1 away in Philadelphia. That game was, I felt, good. I felt, good performance definitely
Yeah.
coming out. We had both our fullbacks unavailable, so we kind of had 2 players deputizing there. and
Yeah.
then um, we had our home opener against Nashville. We conceded in the 5th minute, after like a beautiful ball that just cut open the lines. And we looked very shaky the first 15-20 minutes, and Tabasi hit the post in the last action of the first half. Um, and then second half, that's when we brought on Bongi, and like I said, the energy he brings is just incredible. And that we equalized after a Emmanuel Reynoso, kind of our playmaker. He kind of took a free kick that after a little bit of a goal mouth scramble, Sonny Dawson put it in. But there was actually in the 53rd minute, we had a little bit of a weather delay with lightning. So I think it
Okay.
was almost an hour. So that wasn't good.
Not every
It
day you see
wasn't.
that.
No, no, and I think almost at that time, I think there was another MLS game that also went into a weather
Oh, really?
delay. So yeah, so that's as far as we get into it. But I'm happy as far as with the transfers. I think something as far as Minnesota fans that we like to see is like how do we play all our good attacking
Yeah.
pieces? How do
Yeah.
we fit them all into a good formation? Because we definitely liked what we saw out of Amaria when he was when he was on loan,
Yeah.
and I think he had only played like a handful of minutes with Reynoso, and Reynoso was one of the, I think, as far as chance, like can just create a chance out of nothing, and is just incredible playmaker. Um, but we have uh uh Unu, who we also bought kind of beginning the last season. He's so pretty much all our designated players that we have are Emmanuel and also kind of our number 10, and then we have
Great player, by the
Adrian
way.
and Luis Amaria as Desi. So we have basically two designated player strikers, and Heath usually likes to play in a 4-2-3-1
Yeah.
formation. So that kind of means, especially, and you saw the first two games, he started Amaria over Unu, and we kind of like I said before, how do you put all your attacking players, make good get a good formation,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
um I think most Minnesota fans would something like unorthodox, maybe try to go like a three, go a
Yeah.
three at the
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
and play with, two strikers because Unu is kind of more the, likes to make the late runs into the box and his
Yeah.
movement. But yeah, no, I thought we did some, good transfers and then I just think, yeah, I'm excited. And then, of course, MLS in general, as far as our transfers to Europe in January was just incredible, showing how good kind of we
Yeah.
are getting up in the development of of
Young
players.
players. Yeah. Certainly. Yeah. Definitely.
Um,
Definitely. Go on, mate. Sorry.
um, you have somebody who, is, kind of close to Minnesota, and Christian Ramirez, who, is playing for Aberdeen up in Scotland. And, um, he's kind of, he's even people, it's Scotland, and, it's all between, Celtic and Rangers, but,
Yeah.
he's doing really, really well. As what were you going to say?
No, I was just gonna say, in terms of MLS, again, as we said, there's been a number of players over recent years, certainly American-born players that have really sort of broken into Europe. You're looking at the likes of Reina at Dortmund, who's a fantastic player. Obviously, Christian Pulisic in the Premier League as well. Weston McKennie. It's actually interesting, really, really interesting. I've seen a video on. And it made me think of this. I seen a video on Juventus's Instagram or Twitter the other day, and they're basically going round all of the players and speaking to all of the players about something. And Weston McKennie pops up with this very broad American accent, and I remember thinking, oh, I forgot that he'd come over from America and he was an American-born player. So you're right that the sort of the evolution of the MLS and the progress of, again, it's gone from people looking at it as a retirement league, etc., when the days of, your Gerrards and your Lampards and your Beckhams and stuff would go over and spend their last remaining days there. And don't get me wrong, there'll still be I'm sure a few top players that come towards the end of their career and do finish in the MLS, especially when you've got teams like Miami, David Beckham's a massive figure, and I'm sure he'd be able to offer these top players big money because of the pull that they will bring in terms of their in terms of their celebrity presence more so than their footballing ability, even though most of them are still very good footballers. But we're moving away from that with the MLS now, and we're sort of we're moving towards actually looking at some of the quality that is coming through the ranks and some of the players that you're looking at, and you're thinking, actually, do you know what? There's some really talented young players coming through, American-born young players, but also some of the transfer business. You mentioned Minnesota going into the South American market again. This is something that Minnesota have done over the last couple of transfer windows, haven't they? Really targeted the Argentinian market and the South American market. And in terms of footballers and football talent, some of the best footballers ever to have lived have come over from South America. You look at some of the best footballers now, Lionel Messi, South American. You look at the Brazil teams, the classic Brazil teams, South American. So for Minnesota, and I'm sure other MLS teams, to target those areas of the world to bring in quality, it shows the progress of the league, doesn't it? But also shows the forward thinking of Minnesota's recruitment is to go and try and bring in some of those younger players, because there's absolutely no doubt there'll be some hidden gems over in Argentina and Brazil and stuff that will come over to the MLS and will be absolute stars. And I've noticed you saying before, Minnesota have targeted the Argentinian market again, haven't they, this window?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah, and I think it's I kind of think of it, players definitely coming to the MLS, kind of get it as far as like a stepping stone, maybe, coming to MLS and then, performing really well, then kind of getting the eyes on the, Europe. You've had, Miguel Almiron,
Yeah,
Atlanta, went to Newcastle. Just some of the transfers from this January. You had Daryl Dike to West
yeah, DK,
Brom.
yeah.
Kyle Duncan to Ostend, Chris Mueller to Hibs in Scotland, Ricardo Pepe to Augsburg, James Sand to Rangers on an 18th-month loan with the option to buy, Richie Larea to Nottingham Forest, Cole Bassett to Feyenoord on loan, Justin Shea to Hoffenheim, Theo Baird to St. Johnstone.
Yeah.
And then you have Aaron Trusty, who will be joining Arsenal, but he's going to join in the summer. You have George Bello to Armenia Bielefeld, and then you have Matt Turner to Arsenal, which will be happening in the summer. So I'm very excited. I think it's definitely something. I definitely think, definitely, Matt Turner going over and playing, somewhere, our Arsenal. You already have Zach Steffen,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
deputy
City.
to Ederson at Man City, and that was definitely something that I was kind of, as far as Minnesota fans, the Revs, losing arguably, the best, goalkeeper in MLS last season, and Minnesota having, two really quality that, should be starting in Tyler Miller and Dane St. Clair. And like I said, Minnesota, we were kind of shopping Dane
Yeah.
in the winter, and I think there were a few clubs that came in but didn't meet what they want, and
Yeah.
so I wouldn't be surprised if the Revs either came in for came back in with to meet it, or if they go and look somewhere else. But definitely, I mean, it's amazing to see the talent that MLS is is developing and going on, and um def it's just amazing, like I
Yeah.
said, to just see it.
It's just on Dane Sinclair. Is he Canada's number one?
He's um
He's
I
Canadian, isn't he?
believe, yeah, he's Canadian, and I believe he's like fourth choice. I
Oh,
think I
okay.
think he might be fourth, but yeah, no, I think he was definitely, he started the last when we started the last season. He started the first four games, which we ended up not taking any points in our first four games last season, and then we ended up switching over to Tyler Miller.
Yeah.
um but and then this, it's always who performs better, and so it's kind of, with me, it's like, oh, we really want to see, Dane, play
Yeah.
a lot, but it's, like we said, it's hard to see, where,
He
you
fits
know,
in.
yeah, definitely a competition. And
Yeah.
I know, I think the year when we had Vito Manone on loan, um Dane, like, kind of, even though he's backup, he still has that mentality of being number one. And
Yeah.
and said, when he was learning from somebody, back up to Vito Manone, he said, like, he really didn't care that he was back up, because he was learning so much from,
Yeah.
I mean, how, it's, Vito Manone. And definitely something. So it's incredible have internationals that uh just that just have internationals in the squad.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and as you said, that's what you want. You want the best players of their countries performing, and as you mentioned, then you need that quality and you need that ability and that talent if you're gonna get somewhere. The MLS isn't a league anymore where you can just turn up with very little quality and do well. There's some really good teams and some really good players in there. I just wanted to touch before we are gonna go a little bit deeper into the couple of fixtures that have been played so far this season, but I just want to touch before we get into that on Agent Heath as a manager. Obviously, a lot of Blues watching will be aware of Agent Heath and his stature in Everton sort of history. But I remember having a conversation with you not so long ago about Agent Heath being under a little bit of pressure, I think towards the back end of last season, and fans weren't particularly happy with performances and with results. How did that sort of fizzle out? Is everything a little bit more settled at the moment? Was there an understanding that there's a new season and we go again and we'll strengthen in the window? And as sort of, would you say the majority of Minnesota fans are behind the manager now? Because there was murmurs, wasn't there, at some point a few months ago, that certain sections of Minnesota fans weren't particularly happy with Heath's performances as manager.
Yeah, no, I definitely think, and there are still fans that they criticize Heath because his he rarely, he doesn't really like to he doesn't understand the fascination of, like, substitutions, and might make a substitution here or substitution there. And
Yeah,
usually, like, we know if it's, if he's gonna make a sub, it's going to be an attacking sub around the hour mark, and that's it. And um and then always, there's kind of a mentality that, that kind of, Minnesota, we're the underdogs.
okay.
And it's definitely something that that MLS has taken, and kind of be like, oh, and kind of put us, kind of not, kind of in the middle of the pack.
Yeah,
And then, we kind of and then, MLS, all the MLS riders and stuff are kind of always, kind of mad, just mad as far as the how it is, how we're, calling ourselves underdogs when it's them themselves that are rating us,
yeah,
so,
yeah,
so low. But I definitely, I mean, it's definitely hard at times to watch because there are just times where you just see things aren't working
Yeah.
in his and kind of tactically, like the opposing manager might make a tactical, and then he kind of won't respond to that. So um I would say that, I mean, overall, I think where he's gotten us from, when we first came in to now is really is really, really great. And I think the one thing that that we've been missing has been a trophy. And we were very close winning the Open Cup
Yeah.
in Atlanta. We lost that, but I think um yeah, no, and I know we picked up Heath had a option for this year, and we picked it up last year. So I
Okay.
don't if he might be out of contract after this year, if we
Yeah.
resign him or we go a different way. I mean, me personally, I mean, I'm you kind of you almost have to look at you know who could we bring in. And unlike Europe, it's not like oh, we'll go and we'll grab whoever we want,
Yeah.
and pay them the money, because they'll come into MLS, and you have to work under the restrictions of uh the salary cap
Yeah.
and money. But no, it's kind of I'm always kind of like, okay, if we were to sack him now, who are the
Who would come
names
in?
that who could we go for? And it's like, I'm not liking as far as the names that we could
The
really go
options.
for right now.
Yeah, so fair.
So
And that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about having a replacement lined up and ready. But it's a new season. It is a new season. 2 games have been played, 2 draws for Minnesota. Currently sitting, let me just get it up, ninth in the league. But obviously it's 2 games in. Portland have had 2 draws as well. And, a number of teams that have lost games as well. 2 really close games. Actually, I know you mentioned them briefly before. Philadelphia on the opening day. Actually were 1-0 up through a goal from Robin Lod on that day. And then Corey Burke equalised about 10 minutes later. But again, you look at the stats: 19 shots to Philadelphia, 14 for Minnesota, 5 on target for Philadelphia, 6 for Minnesota, 53% possession in favour of Philadelphia, 47 for Minnesota. Passes are relatively even. Pass accuracy is exactly the same on 73%. So wasn't a 1-1 draw that you look at and you go, oh, X team was lucky to come away with a point, or X team was looking very even. And then again, against Nashville, obviously, as you mentioned, Nashville going 1-0 up very early on, and Hassani Dotson getting the equaliser towards the end of the game. But again, another even game: 14 shots for Minnesota, 12 for Nashville, 4 on target for Minnesota, 2 for Nashville, 55% possession in favour of Minnesota. So again, very tight game of football, and a very close game. And obviously, couple of games in. Third game coming up: New York Red Bulls away from home on Sunday, 11 o'clock kickoff UK time. I don't know what that translates to in the US time, but I'm sure you'll let me know in a second. Good team, obviously a team that I think, if you're not into the MLS and you're not as maybe as sort of involved as maybe I am, or certainly yourself, New York Red Bulls are a team that will definitely stand out because of the fact that they've had the likes of Thierry Henry there, Tim Cahill was there, of course, Evertonians, and more recent of an Everton connection, Kevin Thelwell has just come from over there as well, who's now the director of football of Everton. He was a sporting head of sport or something along those lines over there. So difficult game, mate. Difficult game. You're confident going into it. It'll be a tough one. I think they won their last game 3-0, did they not? Is this one that we're targeting for a win, or would we be happy with another point? But bearing in mind, 3 games in now, we need to be looking at picking up wins, don't we?
yeah, no, it's all it's definitely it's against the Eastern conference opponent. So um no, I'd be happy with a draw. But always a win. But like I said, kind of um we kind of our fullback, depth, kind of like our starter and our backup that we have are both, listed out as questionable. So,
Yeah,
we have to, play, kind of, if they're, kind of, do we play the, kind of almost have to play the young guys, or
yeah,
formation change. But it's definitely, I think, we can go into it and get a win. And Red Bull, good, good team. They got, great players. Like, they got Lewis Morgan, like I said,
yeah,
scored a hat trick uh away in Toronto last week, who will be getting Insigne on a free in the
yeah,
summer.
yeah.
I think he's gonna be the record for the highest paid player in MLS.
Yeah,
If
we forgot to
he's,
talk
I don't
about
know
him,
how
didn't we?
much.
That's a massive signing.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, massive, and it's, I think it's just incredible. Incredible. I Because they did have, Sebastian Giovinco, who,
Yeah,
when he came, he kind of, he was really, really good. And then, you bring in somebody like, Insigne. And I think, it'll definitely be interesting. I think, he'll still ball it up, and
yeah,
be good. But as far as, the game this weekend, like I said, I'm happy with the draw. I'd be even more happy, with the win. But it's, kind of the life of,
of a Minnesota
supporting. It's
fan.
like, yeah, kind of, you'd be happy with the point, but at some point you need to start, getting a good run of games, and
Yeah,
getting good points.
yeah. I
So
think
I
we know that feeling as
definitely.
Evertonians, mate.
Oh, yeah, it's, yeah, I know, and especially, I almost feel like at times, I mean, I feel like I support, two teams that are almost very, very similar, where, Minnesota can just be, bossing a game 1 minute, and then just completely fall off and lose it, and
Yeah,
lose it. But that's not, just, Minnesota. That's just a Minnesota sports, sports team in general, is just, to just, kind of crap the bed at, near the end. And
yeah.
um
Very Everton
yeah,
like as
no.
well. Very Everton like.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's like the one game that I've been to, that I've keep
Yeah,
on bringing up every single time, and I'm
yeah.
like, I gotta get over there to get a different result. So,
Well, hopefully next time you are over, mate, we do have a much better result than that one, and hopefully Minnesota get a big result at the weekend as well, and hopefully Everton get a big result at the weekend as well, because we really, really need it. Listen, I think we'll leave it there. Then a couple of comments where he says Cam Gorty, he says he hopes Eddie smashes him. The beast half or is a bit of a. And then I'm not going to say the rest of that. Same old Everton puts blue hearts, thunder and lightning, very, very frightening. Says Whammy Delamere says switching fanship, is it really that bad? Only messing. And Ollie says up the toffees. Well, we'll leave it there then. If you have enjoyed this one, please hit that like button. It does only take a second. We'll be joined by Gort again in the next few months or so to talk more about Minnesota. So don't worry. Don't forget to check out Gort in the description as well. I'll leave the link to his YouTube channel down below as well to go and have a look at that. It's a Minnesota fan channel. So if you want to hear more about, a Minnesota fan, obviously knows a lot more than I do about the club, then please do go and check him out. Anything to say, mate, before we finish up this one?
no, no, not really. Hopefully, we Everton get out of this battle and come up stronger, and hopefully, Minnesota we have a good start to the season.
Yep, let's hope. Let's hope. Fingers crossed, up the toffees, up the loons. If you've enjoyed this one, leave it a like. Don't forget to check out Gord's in the description down below. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Massive, massive thank you all for watching, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.